Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders to spite someone. And in today's episode, we've got nasty Karens, family members, college instructors, and one power-tripping, smug Karen boss getting taught a lesson they'll never forget. Guys, I hope you enjoy the lineup today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. I used to be a retail manager at a convenience store, and as such, I, not a morning person, would have to be at work at 5 a.m. Knowing how I felt about having to be awake at that hour, I would do my best to be cheerful and make my customers smile by lightly joking a bit and telling them to have a wonderful day as we finished our transaction. Well, one morning, one of our regulars came in, and I greeted her brightly as she approached the counter. The woman just snarled at me that she hated my cheerful demeanor, and that I always told her to have a wonderful day, which she knew was a load of crap. The woman then demanded that I never so much as smile at her ever again. So with that, I apologized for my cheerfulness, and I told her that I would immediately and permanently comply with her wishes. I proceeded to do exactly that. From that day forward, I would treat other customers in my normal cheerful way, but as Karen approached the counter, I would stop smiling and bantering, and I would drop into my natural resting bitch face. I would complete our transaction and then cheerfully turn to the next person in line and continue my banter. Well, after about a month of this, the woman comes back in at her normal time, and she literally calls my manager over and complained to my manager how much she hated that I never smiled at her. She complained that I wouldn't banter with her like I did the other customers, and how my customer service was horrible. I then remind her of her previous demands and that she was getting exactly what she demanded. I also reminded her that I'd said that my lack of banter with her would be permanent. She continued to come in every morning at her usual time, and I continued to banter with the other customers, but I would stop smiling as she approached the counter. I would then turn to the next person in line and continue the banter, and the woman continued to look miserable. And the thing is, if she simply asked me to tone it down a bit, or she said she wasn't in the mood for banter that day, I would have adjusted accordingly. Instead, she got exactly what she asked for. Guys, I absolutely love it when a Karen regrets the words that comes out of their mouth. And seriously, the nerve of Karen to report OP after she told OP to never be fun and cheery with her ever again. Like, there is no winning with some people. Like, some people deserve to be miserable, and they do it to themselves. And this person shares a short comment about a similar encounter. They say, "I'm a 21-year-old female, and I work part-time at a retail clothing store. It's your typical mall chain. Overpriced basics, weird music, and managers who think the customer is always right, even when the customer is actively shoplifting." So one day during my shift, my manager Craig, who's in his 40s, pulls me aside, and he said, "Hey, I notice you don't smile much. You should really smile more. It makes customers feel welcome." I said to Craig, "You mean be friendlier?" And he says, "No. Literally, just smile more. I never ever see you smile. So show off those teeth. Even when no one's talking to you, just keep a smile on your face." Now, I tried to dispute this, trust me, but the guy was adamant that he was the boss and I obey his orders. And I thought to myself, okay, Craig, you want smiles, you got it. So for the rest of my shift and every shift after, I just smiled. But not like normal smiling. I smiled way too wide with way too much teeth. I smiled while folding jeans. I smiled while sweeping. I smiled while telling a Karen we didn't have her size. I smiled at customers until they asked, "Hey, are you okay?" One guy legit complained to my manager that I looked like I was about to snap. Another asked if I was in a cult. A little kid even started crying when I greeted her at the fitting room. Coworkers even caught on and they joined me. We started calling it smile mode. By the end of the week, it looked like a haunted mannequin showroom. Craig finally approached us and told us, "Tone it down." To which I said sweetly, still smiling, "Oh, I thought you said to smile more." He did not bring it up again. Gotta love the over-exaggerated psychotic play, hey? And the fact that all the coworkers caught on made it even better. And another user says, "I worked as a tech support for a global insurance company with 3 big letters. Our old manager retired. He was a cool guy, not a micromanager." So we get this new guy who is right away very confrontational. He was my way or the highway kind of guy, even when we explained the bureaucracy of our company and the processes. For whatever reason, the guy had it in for me. He went as far as to make comments in front of everybody about replacing me. At one of our employee review meetings, he said he was getting complaints of me not smiling enough, which I found very odd because I consider myself a likable person, and I'm always joking with other users and employees, which I found helps with the job. So he continues and even goes as far as to show me how to smile. So cue the malicious compliance. I proceed to give out the most forced, creepy smile humanly possible every single time I interact with a user. Every single time. People asked me what was wrong, and I always answered, following an employee review, I was instructed to smile more, so I'm smiling. I was doing this for a couple of days, and after an interaction providing support for human resources with a smile and explanation, I went back to my desk. A couple of minutes later, I see the HR lady go to my boss's office. They were there for like half an hour. After she leaves, the boss calls me in and tells me that I don't have to smile anymore. I respond sarcastically with, "Aw, do I really have to stop?" He just looks at me and he tells me that's all. The guy quit a short bit after because no one, not even the other managers, liked him. Yeah, I wonder why. Like when you come in as the new manager and start forcing your employees to be overly fake with their smiles, like it just gives off a weird vibe, right? But yeah, let me know if you've ever been forced to smile at work or be extra cheery because I'm the boss, I said so. So here's a malicious compliance story that's made my family laugh for years, and still does. A good few years back, when I was about 24 or 25 years old, I went to Cyprus with my grandparents to visit relatives. My grandparents originally came from there, and they moved to UK when they were like 16. My cousin, 14 female, also came along. Now, it's important to mention that we're Greek Cypriots. Certain things are expected when we visit relatives, such as helping out with things if we can, and offering our help for whatever our host might be doing. It's also worth mentioning that I have a sight problem, but I'm extremely independent in spite of it. So that said, we were visiting relatives, and every time I offered to help out, either taking dishes to the kitchen, bringing them out of the kitchen, washing up, and even getting a glass of water, I kept being told to sit down. They could handle it. Now, I didn't understand why, as I'm perfectly capable. I thought it might be to do with my eyes. One day, we were visiting a great auntie of ours who owns a little summer home by the sea, not too far from where we're staying. Now, when we visit this auntie, I always go swimming. She's literally not even a couple of minutes away from the sea. Now, as I went to offer my help to my great aunt, I could hear my 14-year-old cousin talking to her in Greek. And here is another important note. I can't string together a sentence in Greek. My father's English, and he had something against us speaking Greek. But although I'm not a fluent speaker, I can fully understand Greek. My family doesn't know this. They assume that just because I'm not a fluent speaker, that they can basically hide their conversations between other people. So that said, my cousin was telling my great aunt how clumsy I am, how stupid I am, and how I'm a little soft in the head. She was saying this all in Greek. She thought I couldn't understand her, but I knew exactly what she was saying. Even if I can't string together sentences myself, I knew what she was saying about me. So I added 2 and 2 together, and I realized my cousin was obviously telling all of my relatives this. She did it because she thought she'd get praised if she helped bring out the food without me. Now, I was angry, but I knew the perfect way to get back at her. So we ate lunch, and after we finished eating, my great-aunt asked my cousin for her help to take the dishes in and to do the washing up, as she'd been on her feet most of the morning preparing the food. That's when my cousin looked at me, knowing my great-aunt couldn't speak English, and she said, "Hey OP, so Auntie just said that she needs help taking the plates in and doing the washing up and cleaning the kitchen." She said that because now she was bored, and she expected to run off to the beach and leave me doing the hard work of cleaning up after them. That's when I look at her and I said, "But hey, I'm way too stupid and clumsy and soft in the head to help Auntie out. Besides, she asked for your help, not mine." Hearing me say that, she went pale, realizing that I knew what she'd said. But she just doubled down and she said, "Well, I helped bring everything out and you can help take it all in." I just laughed at her. I picked up the book I'd brought with me, got up from the table, grabbed the towel I brought with me, and went to walk off. My cousin started whining to my grandparents that I wasn't helping her. And that's when my grandmother looked at her and she said, "You made your bed, now you lie in it. Your cousin caught you lying about her and now she can go to the beach while you help your aunt." My cousin went completely white then. So I went to the beach. I swam for 30 minutes, chilled out on the deck chair, reading my book under the shade of a nice umbrella. By the time my grandparents called me that we were heading home, my cousin had spent all of that time helping to wash up and dry things and put them away. She hadn't gotten to be lazy, to go to the beach to enjoy the sea. And the best part is, I could have helped her. I simply decided that I wouldn't, as she never earned my help. Since then, every single time we went to a relative's home and she was asked to help, I just watched with a smirk on my face. And to this day, I'm 37 this year, I still won't help her. She made it seem like I was very incapable to people, and now she suffers the consequences. It's the malicious compliance that keeps on giving to me. Guys, I love this post so much. Like, it is so satisfying when people don't think you understand a language, talk bad about you, and then realize, oh crap, I messed up. And the fact that OP a decade later is still refusing to help her makes it so much better. Like, hey, it wouldn't have happened if your cousin wasn't such a Karen, right? Like Grandma said, you made the bed, now you lie in it, and OP's got a death grip on that grudge. So I have a satisfying malicious compliance that I hope you'll enjoy. Back when I was in nursing school, we were supposed to wear black, non-porous, closed-toed footwear with non-skid soles for our clinic rotations that weren't Crocs. Most of my fellow female classmates wore classic nursing clogs, like Danskos. Now, I've tried wearing clogs like this in the past, and I've rolled my ankles too many times to recall, so I decided to not go that route for shoes. I'm a military spouse, a vet myself, and I have aforementioned crappy ankles, so my footwear of choice was a pair of black leather tactical combat boots. As a show of support and to make sure I always looked sharp at clinical, my hubby always shined up and edge-dressed my boots every single evening before clinical the next morning. The boots always looked professional. They were comfy, I could bump my toes into beds without breaking a toe, and I could wear them all day without having back pain, foot pain, or rolling an ankle. The same could not be said for my classmates wearing more traditional shoes like clogs. That said, the first week of my first semester, I had this old school nurse as my clinical instructor. Now, I say old school because she believed female nurses should still be wearing crisp white uniforms with the stupid starched hats, and that our profession lost prestige when we transitioned to scrubs. This instructor got such a bee in her bonnet about my boots, so much so that she decided that my boots were out of regulation. This woman hated my boots so much that she threatened to take it up to the director and have me tossed from clinical, thus failing the program. Now, there was nothing in the handbook specifically stating I couldn't wear my boots, since it just stated footwear, which was all black, well-maintained, non-skid, and non-porous, which was check, 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 and check. Furthermore, the pair of boots that I wore were meant to be worn by EMTs, so they were waterproof, bloodborne pathogen resistant, puncture-proof, oil-proof, non-skid, and they had reinforced toes. They were just as expensive as Dansko clogs. and they could handle a lot more abuse. I knew I was in the clear, so I decided to keep on wearing them. The day after the instructor commented on my boots, she did a uniform and shoe inspection to make sure that we were appropriately attired. I, of course, was wearing my nicely polished combat boots. She failed me for the day based on my boots, so I politely objected, stating that my boots fell within the definitions of acceptable footwear in the handbook. Well, talking back was not the right thing to do. She literally marches me to the director's office like I was a kid caught stealing cookies, and she demanded that I get tossed for the boots. She argued failure to follow program rules and disrespect because I objected to her failing me. The program director, upon further close reading of the program regulations, determined that there was nothing wrong with the boots. They adhered to the standards set forth by the program, and they were honestly safer than most of the shoes the other students were wearing because they were waterproof, puncture-proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. She rescinded my fail and she allowed me back in clinical. After that, I heard not a peep about my boots from any of the faculty the rest of my program. So fast forward to graduation. I'd been wearing my combat boots since I started, and I had no intention of stopping, especially since many of the vets I cared for during clinical always reacted positively to my boots. The day of our nursing pinning ceremony, where we get our nursing school pins and we're officially recognized as nurses, it has an all-white dress code. White uniforms, starched white hats, white closed-toed footwear. The word footwear is key. The dress code did not state shoes specifically, and I knew this. Well, the same bitchy old bat nurse sees me in the hall, and she makes a point to tell me that I'll have to get some real white nursing shoes to wear to pinning, since I can't obviously wear my beloved black combat boots because we needed to have white footwear. I politely smiled, nodded, and then said that I will have white footwear, and went on my merry way. And then I wore the all-white Doc Marten combat boots that my husband bought me as a graduation gift to pinning. The instructor stopped me after the ceremony, and she'd said something snarky about finally getting nursing shoes, at which point I just pulled up the leg of my white scrubs and I showed her my boots. The look on her face was priceless. What a well-played malicious compliance, and I only wish I could see the look on her face as well. Listen guys, I'm not even gonna lie, reading this post, OP is really selling me on a pair of combat boots. Not to mention, the way OP put it, combat boots seem way better than regular nursing shoes, like I don't know. And this person says, military nurses wear combat boots, and have been since the day of white skirt / starched cap. Giant eye roll from me for that director. Good on you for finding appropriate footwear that you could do the long haul in, and congratulations on the degree. So I'd like to start by saying that this might not be the most interesting of malicious compliance stories that you've read, but I have to admit that this still gives me immense pleasure thinking about it. This happened in 2017, almost a year after I started my new job. To give some background, where I previously worked, I was mostly responsible for managing the cost of projects within a construction program, which, long story short, was refurbishing a major bank's branch buildings. I had worked on this program for almost 10 years, and so when a competitor won the new program contract, I was headhunted by them for my expertise with that particular client. The pay increase was significant, and as part of the job offer, I was told that due to the local office being more than a 1-hour commute away, that I would have the option to work from home when I wasn't required for meetings. So this move happened in July 2017, and the first 6 months were uneventful. I carried on doing the role that I'd been doing for almost a decade. Come January 2018, I was given a promotion, so I was now not only responsible for individual projects, but for managing the whole program with a team of 5 people. Let's just say that this team of 5 people were undertrained by the previous management. The team was also based out of different locations to ensure national coverage, meaning that the majority of my interactions with my team was over Skype and phone. And if I wanted to spend face-to-face time with them, I'd have to travel somewhere between 2 to 3 hours one way. But I tried to be efficient with my time. and I used it by traveling by train and continuing to work on my laptop. This will be important for later. Happy to be moving further up the ladder, I decided to not make too much of a deal out of the fact that I wouldn't be getting a pay raise with this change in roles, with my logic being I'll let the results speak for themselves, and they'll have to recognize what I've done for them. Over the next couple of months, I'm doing 70 to 80-hour work weeks, when my contract stated that I was required to complete 40. I didn't mind the extra time, as again, I wanted to show them that they'd made the right choice of giving me the promotion. With plenty of time spent training up the team further, we were finally getting somewhere. After one successful presentation to the client, for which I was actually given a performance bonus for, everything started to go downhill. The meeting I mentioned took place on a Friday, and the following week, my manager, who let's call Allison, was due to be on holiday for a week. While she was off, she had asked that if her boss contacted me, that I drop everything and assist with his request. I said that I would and went home for the weekend. The following week, I never heard from her boss. Cue Monday morning the following week. I was working from home that day and I boot up my laptop and almost instantly get a message from Allison requesting that I have a meeting with her at the office, which was approximately 2 hours away from where I live, the next day. I thought nothing of it as I spend at least 1 day a week at the office with a member of my team, as mentioned above. When I got to the office the next day, I was expecting the meeting to be a quick catch-up of anything that happened while she was on holiday. And I want to note, she wasn't a very involved manager, so the fact that she didn't need to know on her first day back didn't surprise me. However, what proceeded was an absolute crap show. She starts screaming at me, like full-blown, behind closed doors screaming at me for not doing anything while she was on holiday, and that I had purposefully been negligent by not doing as she'd asked, by not helping her boss. That's when I explained that he had never been in touch with me, so I thought the required work was delayed. She said again that I was negligent, and I should have been proactive and contacted him if I hadn't heard anything. When I explained that I was extremely busy with an unexpected issue that came up, she told me that I should have done what she asked me to do and left it to one of my team to handle. To avoid any further arguing, I just said it would never happen again. However, internally, this was the beginning of my compliance. Over the next few months, I continued my working hours. However, I would always prioritize her requests. And seriously, some requests were so mundane that she really could have just done it herself in 15 minutes. And if issues came up while I was working on these, I told my team that unfortunately, they would have to redirect the issue to my boss so she could prioritize my workload. She did not like this as I, quote, should have done this myself. To take revenge on my petty compliance, she decided that my usual work pattern of 3 days a week of working from home, where I would generally work at least 14 hours, and 2 days working from offices based 2 or 3 hours away, in which I would leave at 6 a.m. and wouldn't be home until 8 p.m., was no longer agreeable. The conversation went like this. Allison said, "Hey, you need to work in the office every day. The current agreement no longer works as it's causing delays in communication," which of course it wasn't. I then respond, "But my local office is more than 1 hour away." She then says, "Well, we'll have to relocate you to a closer office." To which I respond, "There isn't a closer office. This is my local office, and because of traffic, it can sometimes take me 2 hours to travel one way. And seriously, it sometimes happens when there was a train or road closure, etc." Allison then says, "Well, you have to work in your local office then." I then say, "If you want me in the office, I won't be doing any overtime. The only reason I'm happy working the hours I am is because I'm at home." My boss then said, "I don't care, I want you working in the office." To which I respond, "Okay, no problem." Fast forward another 2 months, and I'm doing exactly what's agreed, working my hours. When traveling, I don't open up my laptop as this was outside office hours. I don't look at the emails received after I leave for the day, and for me, I'm enjoying having my evenings back. Allison did not enjoy this, as it meant late requests were completely ignored and usually ended up being late. There was actually one occasion where she emailed me requesting some information she needed for an important breakfast meeting she had the next day. But because of when she asked, I wasn't able to get this to her until an hour after her meeting started. I took joy in pointing this out to her when she sent me the email and our previous agreement. But due to my treatment I'd been receiving, I decided to look for new employment. Then came the day to hand in my notice. She had the biggest smile on her face when I gave it to her, as I knew the whole thing was just a way of getting me to quit. However, something she didn't understand was how far removed she was from my day-to-day tasks. I basically ran everything. So when I had the program handover meeting with her a couple of days before I left, this is how the meeting basically went. Allison asked me, "So who does ABC?" I respond, "I do that." She says, "Okay, and who does XYZ?" I respond, "I do that as well." She says, "Oh, that's you as well. And who does 1, 2, 3?" I respond, "Yeah, that's me." At this point, she's kind of surprised. She says, "Wait, you do that? Well, how do you have time to do that?" I respond, "That used to be one of the things I did in the evening so no one could interrupt me. It doesn't take long, maybe 2 hours a day." She then says, "Okay, but who does 7, 8, 9 when you have to do ABC?" At this point, I smile and I say, "Oh, when that happens, I used to start work early. I would finish ABC and then do 7, 8, 9. Now, please bear in mind that during this meeting, she was becoming paler with every one of the back and forths to the point where I thought she was gonna pass out. The look on her face as I left her with a giant heap of crap to look after was almost the best thing I've personally felt. But the best thing is, I've recently come in touch with a previous colleague where we discussed Allison and how things were going. Well, it turns out that after I left, the entire program came to a grinding halt. Due to the fact that Allison had no experience with the client or their requirements, it turns out that minor issues were becoming huge problems, with resolutions taking way too long. This and the fact that Allison hadn't trained up my replacement properly, the entire program came to a complete stop. Because of all the things that had gone wrong that she was responsible for, she was sacked about 6 months after I left. It still brings a smile to my face that because of me quitting, she lost her job. What a post that was, guys, and seriously, don't we all just love how karma comes around and just smacks someone in the face who totally deserves it? And I'm gonna say this, I don't think anyone is gonna find this post to be uninteresting OP. Like, a nasty Karen boss getting fired is one of the best things ever. Especially when knowing how she was on purpose trying to make OP's life harder so they would quit. It's just nice to know that things ultimately backfired on her in the end. And one thing that a lot of managers don't know is that people don't quit jobs, they quit a bad boss. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/MaliciousCompliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/I-don't-work-here-lady, where psycho Karens are causing trouble at airports. You won't want to miss that one. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.